Hey, my fellow PMs. It's time to talk about Agile once again. It's also time to talk about this thing right here. PMP Guide, 6th edition. Now, someone might say, why are we talking about the PMP Guide 6th edition? Well, it's still relevant. And today I'm going to be asking you 10 easy questions. I hope they'll be easy for you. Surrounding Agile and the PMP Guide 6th edition. So let's jump into the very first of the easy questions. This is a very easy question. Let's just get it on the screen to warm us up a little bit. An Agile approach to planning, A, B, C, or D? I want you to hit the pause button. Think about it for about a minute. And when you're done, we'll check out the answer. Go for it. All right, 3, 2, and 1. If you need more time, hit the pause button. The answer to this question is not option D. An Agile approach to planning does not fully define product features early in the project. It evolves all throughout the project. It is incremental in discovery. Option C results in a fully defined schedule and budget. That is not correct either. Taking a look at A and B, option B focuses on the plan documents rather than the planning process. Again, that is not true. Agile does not focus on a bunch of plan documents. The best option to this is A, results in plans that encourage change and that are easily changed. This goes back to the Agile Manifesto, the values and the principles. All right, let's take a stab at a few more in the easy realm before we ramp up to the more difficult stuff. All right, here's an easy one. The Agile Manifesto states responding to change over what? This is easy. 3, 2, 1. The answer to this is following a plan. Let's get into some more questions from the Agile realm. Let's dive into something from the Process Business Question series. Let's go to this one. You are responsible for an Agile project. Management is a bit concerned about both the cost and the quality of this project. They've asked you to pull together an estimate for the total cost that will be required. I'll let you read the rest. Go. All right. 3, 2, and 1. Hit the pause button if you need more time, but remember on the exam, you got about a minute plus for each question. So let's use the process of elimination. Remember it said, choose all that apply. So looking at option A, investment in preventing non-conformance to requirements. That will be correct. Let's put a check mark next to it. Appraisal of the product or service for conformance to requirements. Appraisal cost. Definitely another good one. What about the third one? Failure to meet requirements. Well, think about it. This goes back to failure cost. Cost related to non-conformance of the deliverable to stakeholder expectations and requirements. So again, C would be correct, which means the answer is all of the above. That would be your best answer. All right, let's move on to the next question. You're working in a project environment where there are multiple Agile-based projects operating. In order to coordinate planning and analyzing the data as well as dependencies between different projects, which two formats are most popular? Select two. I'll let you think about it for a bit. All right. 3, 2, and 1. So let's use the process of elimination. It says select two. Now this question is talking about multiple endeavors. The question is really asking about agile scaling techniques. Now taking a look at these, which of these are scaling techniques? Well, Scrum is Scrum. It's not a scaling technique because it says multiple agile-based projects. Did you catch that? So it's not Scrum and it's not XP. But if you know about what a Scrum of Scrums is used for, it's used for just this, to bring multiple interrelated agile teams together. Maybe they're under the same company's roof and they're doing similar things or the same thing, but they're different teams. That's the key thing. So you're bringing people from all these endeavors together. That's a Scrum of Scrums. And you could also use the Scaled Agile framework. You've probably watched Roy's video with me on SAFE. Enough said. All right. So the answer to this, my friends, is both B and C. And just remember, on your exam, you are going to get questions that ask you to select more than one option. All right, let's move on to the next one. You're in the middle of executing an iteration or sprint. A senior executive has come to you with a new requirement. I would like to have this change incorporated into the project as soon as possible. What should you do? I'll let you think about it for about a minute. Go. All right, 3, 2, and 1. All right, time up. So the best option alludes to an understanding of who can add to the product backlog. Theoretically speaking, anyone can add to the product backlog. The question is, will the product owner prioritize it? And with the help of the team, will the product owner choose to work on that item? Is it low value? Is it high value? It depends. Therefore, the most proactive thing to do in this scenario, where someone says, I have something to add to the project as soon as possible, you want to put it right there on the backlog, and dialogue can begin at a convenient point. But the options D, disregard this request, is against the spirit of Scrum or Agile. Add this new item to the product backlog is plausible. B, ask them to speak to the product owner. That is just sending them on the runaround. There's really no need to do that right now. Product owner addresses it at a convenient spot. And A, immediately begin working on this new functionality, goes against the tenets of Scrum and Agile. We don't want to interrupt the sprint. For that to happen, there must be a review by the product owner And there must be some sort of concurrence, bringing the team along and letting them see why on earth you are changing a sprint, because we try our best to not do this in the world of Scrum. We don't want to just add something midway, midstream in the sprint. That will be against our tenets. So the answer is C, add this new item to the product backlog. All right, let's shift gears here and go to some questions from our masterclass hybridization series. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at this question. The product owner and the team discussed the user stories planned for a particular project. The team pointed out that none of the stories had acceptance criteria defined, and that these were needed to define the acceptance tests for each story and deliverable. However, they could not agree on when exactly these needed to be defined. Ideally, when should the acceptance tests be defined? Is it A, B, C, or D? What do you think? I'll give you a minute. Think about it. All right, if you need more time, you go ahead and hit that pause button. But for now, I'm going to choose some random answer, and then we'll find out if it's right or not. So I'm just going to randomly choose, intentionally choose the wrong one. Let's go ahead and choose A. And let's click save and see what happens. So A is wrong, and the correct answer you see is D. Why? Well, my buddy Roy, who wrote this quiz, says in refinement before development. Why? Because backlog items should be well understood before an iteration starts, but not so early that time is wasted on items that may not be implemented. You get it? So in your backlog refinement before the next sprint, that's where you begin thinking about this stuff. That's where you define this stuff. All right, now this is at a pretty high level. In fact, a lot of folks who pass the ACP exam under Roy's watch, they go through these questions. So these are pretty intense questions. They're not a cakewalk. Here's the next one. A team started working on a new requirement for a customer, which required the use of a complex new technology. They were not sure if the chosen technology will serve the purpose. Which of the following techniques will help them reduce the uncertainty and gain more information? Is it the review, the retrospective, risk-based spike? Is it the sprint? I'll let you think about it for a minute. All right, let's go ahead and let's choose some random option that is wrong. I'm going to go with retrospective, even though I know the answer is not that. Let's click on save. And the answer to this is none other than risk-based spike. Now you may ask the question, what is a spike? We're going to take a look at your Agile practice guide, and we're going to take a look at the definition of a spike. What does it say? Page 52 and 154. So let's take a look at 154. Spike. A short time interval within a project, usually of fixed length, during which a team conducts research or prototypes as an aspect of a solution to prove its viability. So if you haven't read up about spikes, I would advise you open up your Agile practice guide, just read a little, get more familiar with it. But for now, the answer to this question is risk-based spike. Risk-based spike. And Roy says a spike, aka enabler, has the sole purpose to gain knowledge, as you read in the Agile practice guide. Let's move on to our next one. A team was working on a complex product that required integration of many complex parts. I'll let you read it and I'll give you a minute. Go for it. All right, my friends. I hope you're enjoying this. Let's end the poll. 3, 2, and 1. All right. So what are we gonna select? Let's select an option that is wrong. Let us go ahead and go with option D, which we know is clearly wrong. And let's go ahead and save. And here's the answer. The answer is D. Why is it D? Well, if you take a look at the options given, these are not a way that it will be helpful. It says helpful to the team. So what's going to be helpful to the team? To increase the team velocity. How is that helpful to the team? How? Think about it from an Agile perspective. Is increased velocity helpful? No, it's a byproduct of something greater. So I wouldn't choose A. You get what I'm saying? To increase team velocity, that is not what we would term as being helpful to the team. How does that help the team? No. B, to reduce the length of the iteration. Well, that goes against the grain of Agile. You cannot and should not reduce the length of iterations once they're fixed. 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks or 1 week, whatever you decide it to be, you leave it as is. You don't change it. So you're not trying to reduce the length of an iteration. That is not our goal. That is not helpful to the team. In fact, that is confusion for the team. So it comes down to 2. So think about C versus D. When you talk about the concept of continuous integration, the light bulb comes on. Let's open up the Agile Practice Guide and let's read what continuous integration is all about. Continuous integration is on page 151 and it reads, a practice in which each team member works products that are frequently integrated and validated with one another. What does that do for you? If you're constantly integrating, you are always making sure that your product is nearer a releasable state. It is not a guarantee that you are going to gain customer acceptance. It's not a given. But what is a given? That your product will be close to a releasable state at any time. And that is why the answer to this question is C. Does that make sense? Good. Again, this is at ACP level, but it is good for you to see some questions at this level before getting into your exam. All right? We'll do a couple more on this level, and then I'll take it down a notch, and then we'll call it a day. Here's another one. A team was planning the deliverable for a 2-week time box, which represents a sprint. A scrum master, who is the team facilitator, was helping reconcile the expectations of the business. I'll let you read it. Go on. And then when you get done, we'll review it. Take a stab at it. See you in 1 minute. All right, you should be getting ready to round up. Hit the pause button if you need more time. 3, 2, and 1. All right, so let's choose an option from here. But let's first of all read. A team was planning the deliverables of a 2-week time box, which represents a sprint. The Scrum Master, who is the team facilitator, was helping reconcile the expectations of the business, represented by the product owner and the team. It was agreed that the team would complete the deliverables before the completion of the time box sprint, and that the product owner would not change the requirements related to those deliverables during the sprint. Why is this agreement necessary? So, taking a look at this question, my friends, we can, through the process of elimination, get rid of stuff that is blatantly incorrect, false statements, things that don't add up. So let's start from D. D says, so that the business and the team get what they want. Think about that. Is that in the spirit of Scrum or Agile? No, it's not. It sounds selfish. Business want to get what they want. The team wants to get what they want. Doesn't sound right off the bat. Now, if you investigate further, the reason why we commit to these things is not to get what we want. Instead, it's to be on the same page. Customer collaboration over contract negotiation. Negotiation, a lot of times people are like, oh, it's what I want. I want to get something out of this. But collaboration is a higher thought process. It's not D. Let's take a look at the next one, up. To ensure that the agreed goals can always, watch that word, always be met. That is a bogus word. When you see things like always and never, you immediately smell rat that this doesn't look correct. It doesn't look right. But the reason why we do that is not to ensure that the agreed goals can always be met. That's not why we do that. And besides, this commitment has more to do with mindset. Let's look at option B. To incorporate flexibility as a value in sprint planning. Let's read it again. It says, it was agreed that the team would complete the deliverables before the completion of the time box sprint, and the product owner would not change the requirements. Would not change the requirements. How does that incorporate flexibility? And why do you want to incorporate that in a sprint? In a sprint, that is where we lock down stuff so that there are no additions and we stay focused on the goal. So the answer is not B either. When you boil it down, the correct answer is actually A, to ensure there is reciprocal commitment. That is the value you're looking for. That's the word you're looking for. That's the Scrum value you're looking for. So the answer is A, not B, C, or D, as you'll see. So the answer is A, and it says to ensure there is reciprocal commitment from both ends. Why? Without a mutual agreement regarding sprint changes, scope creep can occur, jeopardizing the sprint goal. Does not ensure that the goal will be met, simply increases the odds. Again, from the world of Agile. Now, for those of you taking the exam, you're wondering, well, what about this book, Phil? You said you were going to talk about it. And I want to just throw in some questions here because I want you to be ready to switch between concepts from the PMBOK guide, concepts from the Agile Practice Guide. This will help you in the long run. And I think it's what everyone should do. You should be ready to face 50-50. We heard from Keith. If you haven't watched Keith's video on the channel, hit subscribe. And the next number of weeks, we have some goodies coming up. And the people who are subscribed, they're going to get notified when those goodies are out there. If I were you, you're not done it, hit that bell icon, subscribe, and you'll be pleasantly surprised to see what is going to be coming down the pike in the weeks ahead. Some fun stuff. But let's go back to the world of the PMBOK guide. We're going to ask maybe just 2 questions for now so that you folks can go about your business. Here we go. Not that one. Not that one. That's easy. That's an easy one. Not that one. Let's go to this one. All right. You are performing a multi-phase project assessment based upon available information, lessons learned from previous projects, and meetings with relevant stakeholders in order to support the evaluation of the feasibility of new products or services within the given assumption and or constraints. What step should be taken next? Think about it. I'll give you a minute. Go. All right. If you need more time, feel free to stop, pause it, think about it, and come back. All right. So taking a look at this, my friends, the question talks about performing a multi-phase project assessment. And then it says, in order to support the evaluation of the feasibility of new products or services. What do you think they're talking about? A feasibility study, an economic feasibility study, all that stuff is done pre-authorization. So what should happen next is not project planning. That's too far along. So we're going to use the process of elimination to cross some stuff out. It's not A, that is too far down. B, risk management strategy. That is pretty quick and too. This should be further down after we know enough about scope, schedule, costs, and so on. That's where we craft our strategy. It shouldn't be happening now. You don't do feasibility and then craft a strategy. C, assumption and constraints prioritization. Assumptions and constraints, again, they are going to happen, but it's too early to go into this. The best thing to do first is your project authorization. And this is one of those genetically engineered questions that you might have seen previous. So project authorization should follow as this describes the preparation of a business case, which is an economic feasibility study. Beware of questions without a process name as an answer. You'll get loads of those on the exam. Probably not going to see a lot of process names. They're going to cloak the process name and you've got to be ready to deal with it. All right, let's go to our next one. Your company has several associated agencies and stakeholders, so you are performing a detailed stakeholder analysis using appropriate tools and techniques in order to align expectations and gain support for the project. Which of the following is an output of this project step? Hit the pause button, think about it. I'll tell you the answer in a minute. All right, you may need to hit the pause button because I'm going in on the answer now. So it says, your company has several associated agencies and stakeholders. So what are you doing? A detailed stakeholder analysis. That's the summary. You're doing a stakeholder analysis. You're trying to align expectations and gain support. Which of the following is an outcome of this project step? So if you go to your PMBOK guide and you go to chapter 13, just do a very quick assessment of what exactly is happening in 13.2 versus 13.1. Let's read 13.2. It says, planned stakeholder engagement is a process of developing approaches to involve project stakeholders based on their needs, expectations, interests, and potential impact to the project. And then if you flip the page over, when you get to the analyses that you're actually doing in 13.2, you realize that the only analyses are assumption and constraint analysis, and then you've got root cause analysis, trying to understand levels of support. But then when you take a look at these options, it says stakeholder salience model, identification information, risk management plan, and then ground rules. So even if you thought it was 13.2, you're not going to find anything from 13.2 here. So it cannot be 13.2 because it said a detailed stakeholder analysis. Now, the only other process it could be where you begin to find some of these things has to be 13.1. If you go to 13.1 on page 512, this is where you actually begin to see the stakeholder analysis they're talking about. This now makes sense from a stakeholder context. So if you were thinking that it was planned stakeholder engagement, you're wrong. It's not. It's actually identify stakeholders. So you are in identify stakeholders, and you are working using these data analysis tools and techniques to create some form of understanding of stakeholders. So what is the output of this? Well, now that you know you are in 13.1, A, stakeholder salience model power grid, which sounds suspicious, and stakeholder matrix. Again, stakeholder matrix sounds a bit suspicious, but we'll just keep that there and see what else we've got in this question. B, identification information, assessment information, and classification. Oh, so if you take a look at A are pretty much tools and subtools, but the answer has to be an outcome. A is not an outcome. All of these are just tools. They're not outcomes. So now I can conveniently cancel out A and take a look at my other options. C, risk management plan with engagement strategy. Oh, definitely not from this. And option D, ground rules for stakeholder engagement and interest management. Well, this is talking about managed stakeholder engagement, obviously, where we have ground rules as a tool and technique, or you could even look at this as chapter 9, but it's definitely not within the confines of chapter 13, definitely not 13.1. So the answer to this, my friends, is option B. These three items are the contents of the stakeholder register, and that's what you're developing. So if you go to page 514, you look under stakeholder register, you see identification information, assessment information, and stakeholder classification. You got to be all over these. You got to be able to separate fact from fiction. Yes, I know it's a pretty stiff question there, pretty hard to, just jump over because you got to read all this text and analyze. Is it a tool and technique? Is it an output? A lot of stuff goes into it. All right. We have heard that on the exam, the questions aren't going to be too long. So this might be on the longer side of stuff. All right, I'm going to ask you just one more. We're going to tone it down a little bit and go into some very, very easy Agile, just two more. Which of the following is not a project artifact on an Agile project? All right, this is a pretty easy one, so hit the pause button if you need more time. But the answer to this one cannot be the product backlog because that's a legitimate artifact, right? Product roadmap. Now, while we don't call this an artifact in Scrum, it is one of the artifacts you could find in the world of Agile. We're going to leave it there. We'll take it off, I should say. Option C, product vision statement. So if you take a look at C and D, which of these is more from the predictive world? Of course, it's D. So it cannot be C because the answer has to be not. Look out for those double qualifiers. So the answer to this question, my friends, is D, the scope baseline. The scope baseline is not an artifact on an Agile project. That was an easy one, wasn't it? All right, here comes our final question. Relative to legal and regulatory constraints, a particular organization or solution must meet different compliance categories may be appropriate. I'll read that again. Relative to the legal and regulatory constraints, a particular organization or solution must meet different compliance categories may be appropriate. There may be different types of compliance categories that may be necessary based on a particular industry and solution scope. Which one of the following is not a category? So let's think about it. For compliance. Okay, you ready? 3, 2, and 1. All right, hit the pause button if you need more time. I'm going to give you the answer. The answer to this, my friends, is not A, because that is definitely a compliance concern, environmental risk. So it's not that. Workplace health and safety, that is definitely a compliance topic or category, right? And then option D, social responsibility. That is definitely more of a compliance category than company culture. Your company culture is yours. When it comes to compliance, we're talking about regulatory compliance type stuff. We're talking about regulations and laws. And your company culture, whatever it is, it's up to you. And that's why the answer to that is C. So thank you very much, my friends, for joining me. For those of you asking for training and coaching, you know where to go. It's Praizion.com. If you're going down to the website, and I'll show you the website in a second, you'll find that we have training holding at different points within the year. If you want to sign up for our live training, just go on down there. And you want to click on the live training options we have. Here we go. And the very first panel there, you see the masterclass. It's a 4-week class. Roy and I will immerse you into the world of Agile and predictive. Or if you want to come for training after your PMP, we've got coaching for PMPs, career coaching, mentoring and stuff. If you wanted to do an online self-study course, well, that's the third option. So just go around there, take a look, see what we've got, and it will be a pleasure to have you as one of our students, all right? I hope you enjoyed this quick run through of different question types that you can find on the exam or that will help you get into the groove of the exam. And these questions written by different authors, different people, and I hope you enjoyed them. Take care. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to hit like. See you folks very soon. You take care. Bye for now. See you later.
Hello, my friends. How you doing? It's your buddy Phil here, project management trainer and coach. Today, we're going to take a look at some hybrid questions from the world of the PMP exam. You might have heard me talking about what to stay clear of. Well, today we're actually going to focus on what you could expect on the exam. You see, the language on the exam is very strange from what I gather. The language is neither overtly predictive in most instances, and neither is it overtly agile. So you're somewhere in the middle of the road where the questions could be posed from a hybrid perspective, which means you really need to have your wits about you. So the purpose of today, we're going to go through over the next 10 minutes, very, very quick, 10 questions that exemplify the feel I would expect to find on the exam. I would advise you to get the biggest payoff from this by actually hitting the pause button, thinking about the questions, and then choosing an answer and seeing if yours matches up with the correct answer. All right, are you ready? Let's begin. Here's the first question. You are a project manager on a hybrid project using an agile approach and in the process of costing work to be done. How would you likely proceed? All right. Hit the pause button if you need more time. 3, 2, and 1. All right, let's end the poll and let's take a look at what you have selected. Because you are in an agile project, the most sensible thing to do is to work in accordance with the triple constraint that is flipped on its head, where scope is flexible, where schedule and cost are fixed. So, do you see fixed schedule? No. Do you see fixed cost? Yes. So the answer is D. Okay? The answer is D because schedule and cost are fixed in the world of Agile, and that's what you want to choose. Let's go to the next one. You are a project manager on an Agile project involved in creating a new software application. A product owner delivers a report that the refactoring process being used by the team is inadequate. What should the project manager do upon receiving this complaint? All right, 3, 2, 1. All right, so if you go through the options, some of the options sound a little bit spurious. Make the changes and follow the recommended change control procedures. That word change control obviously sounds predictive, doesn't it? And it's telling you you're in an agile project. B, meet one-on-one with the product owner to keep the matter secret from the team. That goes against transparency, so that wouldn't be a good option. C, a strange sounding one, conduct a retrospective. What is a conduct a retrospective? Well, it sounds spurious. It says in the absence of the product owner. So even if you take it at face value, conduct a retrospective in the absence of the product owner so you can discuss freely, no, that's against the spirit of Agile. The product owner is meant to be in the retrospective. So we are going to cancel this one as well. And we're going to take a look at option D, meet with the product owner and the team to better understand the problem. Simple. A lot of times on the exam, you come across very simple answers, but those are the right answers. All right, let's go to our next one. A project manager working on a flow-based Agile project receives a request from management to scale up and to add 4 team members on after training. There are currently 4 team members. What should the project manager do next? What do you think? All right, 3, 2, 1. Remember to hit the pause button if you need more time. You see the question keeps mentioning project manager, even though it's talking about Agile, but you still see project manager, which is kind of counter. You can kind of tell it's more like an Agile-ish, hybrid-ish mix. But anyway, let's take a look at the options. Scrum of Scrums. Okay, so let's take a look. Let's count. Add 4 team members. You currently have 4 team members. And let's assume we throw in the project manager as well. In the world of Agile, should be included as a servant leader. So we have 9. So we have 9 in total if we were going to add these 4. You wouldn't need a Scrum of Scrums for that. A Scrum of Scrums is used to scale up larger numbers than 9. Kanban, we're not looking to scale, to be honest, because we just have 9. So even though the project manager has been asked to scale up, there's really no need to scale up. So Kanban, we're not going to throw that out. Let's take a look at Scrum. Scrum, well, it says a flow-based Agile project. So it cannot be Scrum. Scrum is iteration-based. And D, Discipline Agile, we don't need this for just 9 individuals. So the best answer is B. In the spirit of Agile, you want to go ahead and choose Kanban. That's the flow-based approach at the team level, and that will suffice. Let's take a look at the next one. You're a project manager in a hybrid project using a predominantly Agile approach and in the process of decomposing work to be done. What should you do first? All right, if you need more time, hit that pause button. Spoiler alert, 3, 2, 1. All right, so I have a mnemonic. It goes like this. Phil eats fries seldomly on Tuesdays. And that just means product, epic, feature, story, and task. So at the topmost level, you have the product, then the epic, then the feature, then the story, then the task. So you begin from the topmost levels working down. So it wouldn't be any of the lower levels, definitely not the feature. When you have the epic, definitely not the task level. You wouldn't decompose any further than that. And work package level, that's trying to throw you off. That's from the world of WBS, which is in predictive. So the answer to this is epic. In an Agile world, that would be the highest level. That's where you would begin decomposing from. All right, let's move to our next one. You are planning how and when to deliver a product on an Agile project. Which of the following approaches would you use, should be the word. So you think about it for a moment. I'm going to do a little tweak here on the fly and go ahead and choose whatever you think. Which of the following approaches would you use? Alrighty then, 3, 2, and 1. All right, so think about it. Long cycles to undertake work is the first one. Remember, you're in the world of Agile. We don't use long cycles, right? You're planning how and when to deliver a project. You wouldn't use long cycles. So anything that says long cycles is automatically wrong, regardless what follows. This is a method you should use on your exam, the process of elimination. Just cancel whatever, use long cycles to undertake work, review plans, and stick to the plan. That's definitely not Agile. Use long cycles to monitor work, review the results, definitely not long cycles. and you wouldn't be able to adapt sensibly if it was long cycles. Now it boils down to the last two. Let's take a look at C. Use short cycles to undertake work, review the results, and adapt as necessary. Sounds plausible. Let's take a look at D, see if it's better. Use short cycles to plan work, ignore the results. Oh, that's definitely a red flag. Ignore, no. In order to embody what Agile is all about and empiricism, you should not be ignoring the results. You should be incorporating the results. So the answer to this, my friends, is C. Use short cycles to undertake work, review the results, and adapt as necessary. All right, let's go to our next one. You are in the process of establishing how to build a schedule, the policies, procedures, and documentation for planning, developing, managing, executing, and controlling the project schedule. Which result do you expect to receive from this process? If you need a pause button, hit it. 3, 2, 1. All right, my friends. The answer to this question can be decoded by knowing what exactly you are. It says, establishing how. See that? To build a schedule. This is one of the things that happens in any predictive project. We ask the question, how are we going to develop the schedule? So this is really as you're planning how to build a schedule, right? And it says, what do you expect to receive from planning how to develop the schedule? The process of elimination is definitely not the project schedule we get because we're planning how to build it. We couldn't have just gotten it like that. B is the schedule baseline, which is the originally approved schedule. So we wouldn't receive that from planning how to build a schedule. That's premature. Let's take a look at the last two. C is schedule development approach, and D is the product roadmap and sprint goal. No, that would be, first of all, too early, and secondly, of course. Okay, so that will not come at this point. You'll be thinking more about this as you develop the schedule, but not as you're planning how. You see, in this part of the project, you probably would ask, how are we going to build a roadmap? You wouldn't build a roadmap. So the best answer seems to be C, schedule development approach. That's what you're going to get out of the process. All right, let's move on to our next one. And then take a look at page 180, and you'll be able to see that in more detail. Let's go to our next one. You have been hired to lead an Agile project that has high visibility. Some very important information needs to be sent out to stakeholders, but you need to decide on the type and format of information needed with an analysis of the value of that information. Which of the following communications would you choose? Give it a minute. If you need a pause button, please hit it. Think about this. 3, 2, and 1. All right, my friends. So let's use process of elimination again. So you got to read the cues. Some cues have been given. And like I said, the exam juggles between the Agile realm and the predictive realm. Okay, so here we can use the process of elimination to cancel anything that is un-Agile. So taking a look right down A, B, and C, I see infrequent, centralized. Those are bad words for Agile. Infrequent is bad, centralized is bad, and that cancels everything else. So whether you're using burn down charts, demos, reviews, that is inconsequential. That is a very poor option for you. So let's cancel that. All right, so let's take a look at what we have left and look down. I see the word centralized again. This is anti-Agile, right? We don't use centralized communication. Definitely not around your schedule, so we cancel that, okay? And then taking a look at the last two. Let's read. Frequent transparent communication using an information radiator. Doesn't sound bad. Let's take a look at the next one. Frequent communication using a communication management plan and, Status reports. Okay, so you do know these are not as agile as you can be with a communication management plan. We use team charters and we use osmotic communication and fishbowl window concept and things like that. But what it's talking about here is definitely more on the agile side. So unfortunately, we have to get rid of C and the best option, because it's agile. You want to use frequent, transparent communication using an information radiator. All right, let's move on to the next one. So I hope you're enjoying these questions. If you are, don't forget to hit like, hit that smash that like button, and then don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to hit the bell icon, because it helps the algorithm so that our friends can find these videos. I hear a lot of people after the fact, they say, Phil, we didn't know that you were out there on YouTube. Well, it's because people are not able to find the videos. So if you hit like, it'll help your friends and other people trying to get certified to find these videos. All right, let's take a look at the next one. The next question is, your firm is going through an agile transformation. You're now in the process of developing an appropriate approach and plan for project communications on your new agile project. The company culture is opposed to large amounts of communication. What should you do to effectively manage communications with this globally dispersed team? So the question, my friends, again, I'm not trying to tell you the answer, but look for those clues. There's certain clues. If you miss those clues, the whole question will be totally wrong. Okay? All right, if you need to hit the pause button, go ahead and do that. 3, 2, 1. All right, spoiler alert, I am going to show you the answer, but it seems like I'm too late. You must have been laughing all the way because I was showing you the answer right from the beginning. So this one's yours for free. This is a free question. You got me on this one. All right, so again, you want to take a look at the options. Let's assume you weren't able to see the option that I'm showing you, right? The answer I'm showing you. Because this is agile, all of these other things that are not to be used with a globally dispersed team wouldn't work. You get what I'm saying? So avoid frequent messaging would be wrong in the spirit of agile, so you would cancel that. Discuss policies with functional heads. There's absolutely no reason for you to do that. That would be wrong. And then we have A and B. So email, phone call, weekly. That should have immediately thrown you off. That's much too long for an agile project. On an agile project, you know the drill. It's a daily thing, the daily stand-ups, a daily scrum. And that's why the answer that we have chosen for this is A. Instant messaging, video conferencing, team boards, stuff like that. All right, good. So the answer would have been A, but you got me on that one. That one's yours for free, except I can reverse engineer it. I'll see. All right, here we go. Here's your second to the last question. All right, you're working on an agile project and unfortunately, you're unable to use webcams. The team is 100% virtual. When conducting meetings with remote participants, where there is a loss of facial and body language cues, which of the following would you recommend? All right. Hit the pause button if you need more time. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, my friends, here we go. Again, the language tends more towards an agile project. So even if you went on an agile project, this should be pretty common sense for you. It's asking, how do you keep people engaged when you don't have webcams? So is it allowing one person to speak for the entire duration? No. That actually will catalyze people falling off the map and doing other things instead of being engaged. So it's not A. B, consider round robin check-ins to ensure participation and check consensus for decisions. It doesn't sound bad. C, use firm, fixed, and rigid communication. Oh, that's definitely not agile. To avoid disorder. So you wouldn't do that. And the last one, this should not be a problem if email is the sole communications medium. No, we don't want to do that. So the answer to this, my friends, is B. Okay, you can find this on page 122 of the Agile Practice Guide. This is verbatim. It says, when conducting meetings with remote participants where there is a loss of facial and body language cues, consider round-robin check-ins to ensure participation and check consensus for decisions. So what you've seen from most of these questions, they're not insurmountable, they're not too difficult. However, you do need to read and you really need to focus and concentrate to apply the thinking of, am I in Agile? Am I in Scrum in particular? Am I in Kanban in particular? Am I in predictive? And then choose the answer accordingly. Let's take a look at another one. Okay. You're the project manager in a large size organization. Management has decided to allow you implement the ideas you have requested. The PMO has authorized you to set up a number of Agile teams. What should you do next? I'll let you think about it for a little bit. This will be our final one for today. All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, let's take a look at the question. So, my advice for questions like this would be to use the process of elimination. The process of elimination, when you don't know the question, like straight, head-on, pinpoint precise, my advice to you is to use the process of elimination. Now, some folks encounter questions on the exam and get dispirited. Don't. Just remember, process of elimination is always a good option to use. Okay, so which of these can you immediately disqualify? Let's do that. Set up teams of 12. You do know that the number of teams that we often talk about in the world of Agile is less than that number. So this is not ideal. It says, with a tightly governed structure, that makes matters worse. This will enable you to try out several pilots. No, that's bad stuff. So get rid of that. Let's take a look at the next one. Set up teams of 20 to 30. You do know they must be having a laugh at this point. Definitely not. We don't set up teams with 20 and 30 for large size client projects. No, no, no. That's predictive world. No. Okay. Next one. Set up teams of 7 plus or minus 2 with a decentralized structure. This will allow the team to better practice Agile concepts. So I'm sure you get the idea of what is going on here. The idea is to see if you know what would work best when building an Agile team, what size. So C doesn't sound bad. However, let's take a look at D. Set up teams of 9 or minus 3. 9 plus or minus 3. Well, that will take us again into the world of 12, which is a no-go area based on what we know in the Agile Practice Guide, right? So that wouldn't be the right thing to do either. Set up teams of 9 plus or minus 3. Enable it. Oh, there's the bad word of decision making structure again. So you know that is not what you want to do. That is not what you should do. So again, we can cancel option D, and then we're left with C. There you go. We're left with C. And the answer to this final question, my friends, is C, for obvious reasons. Okay? Whenever you get questions that tell you in an agile situation, you need to be thinking agile. All right? No more than 9 team members, 12 would be too large, and a centralized structure is not desired. Okay? Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any questions whatsoever, or you are looking to work on your exam prep, you know what to do. Just look below. You'll find all the information you need and the website. Okay, thank you very much. I wish you all the very best. Remember to think hybrid. The more balanced you are with hybrid and predictive, the better it's going to be. You'll be able to navigate more freely. Okay, it's not about Agile alone. I actually got a student last week that said Agile might have been like 4% if you're going to say purely Agile. I was a little bit astonished because for the longest time I'd heard that Agile was big, but in 2022, seems like the tide is changing quite drastically. A lot of students are saying it's more hybrid than anything else. It's all mixed up. And if you don't know how to make the road clear by moving Agile to one side and predictive to the other, and seeing clearly, oh, this is all mixed, it's hybrid, you might find it hard. You know, some questions are purely predictive, yes. Some questions are purely Agile, yes. But a lot of the questions are hybrid. That's what I've heard. Before I go, let me also remind you to read the Agile Practice Guide, and also don't forget to read the PMP exam content outline. That will help you greatly. All right, you take care and all the very best. Bye for now. Welcome, my friends. Today, we are going to be taking a look at the Project Management Masterclass Mini Mock Exam. If you have roughly 30 to 40 minutes to spare, then I would encourage you to begin this exercise. If you don't have that time to spare right now, I would like for you to keep this video until you actually have about 30 to 40 minutes to spare, because we're going to take a look at roughly 34, 35 questions, and we're going to put ourselves in exam mode. We are going to go through 3 different segments. Now, unlike the real exam that is mixed up into no specific order, in this mock exam, we'll take a look at people, then process, then business. I'll show you the questions. I would advise you to hit the pause button or give yourself more time to answer the questions. When you have finished a section, move to the next section. And at the end of it all, when you have all of your answers compiled, you know, if you get yourself a sheet of paper and then compile all your answers on that sheet, as in number 1A, number 2B, number 3C, and things like that, by the time we're done, you'll be able to go over them and you'll be able to see what you got right and what you didn't get right, okay? You'll also be able to take a look at the answers and see why you got them wrong. Okay, so this is not one of those quick 3 or 4 second type mock exams. No, I want you to actually act as though you are in a real exam. Go through the process and check your thought process so that at the end of the exercise, you really would have gained something from it. Okay, so I'm going to allow you to stop the recording where you need to. If you need more time for each question, do that. Just be aware that the time on the real exam is roughly 1 minute, 15 seconds, thereabouts. Okay? All right. So again, welcome. So let's get started, my friends. Here is your first set
of questions in this mini mock exam. We're starting off with people. As you can see, we have the number of the question at the bottom right, and that corresponds to a slide right down here. Okay, so we will reset these numbers and we'll be starting off at 1. Question 1. Which of the following is not a hallmark of communications in Agile teams? A, frequent feedback cycles. B, use of social networking tools. C, osmotic communications. And D, a WAS or work authorization system. Now, remember, hit the pause button and answer the question to the best of your ability. When you are done, move on to the next question, because I will be moving on to the next question pretty rapidly. I will not reveal the answers yet, but at the end of the exercise, we'll go through all of the questions for each section, okay? So hit the pause button and answer. Next question. As coach or scrum master on a medium-sized project, you have noticed that the complexity and size of the project team has dramatically grown over the course of several releases. The team size has now grown to 40, and team communications have started to break down. What would be the best corrective action to take? Hit the pause button. Answer the question to the best of your ability. Next question. You are an Agile practitioner on a software development project utilizing the Scrum methodology. It is a very large project which involves several Scrum teams. You are interested in gathering best practices information and circulating this information across teams. This will help not only the current project, but also future planned projects. Which technique would best help you achieve that goal? Hit the pause button, answer the question, and then move on. Question 4. You are working on a project as a team facilitator. You have identified that there is conflict among 4 team members who have formed factions. What is the best course of action for this situation? Moving on to question 5. A new team member just joined the project with very little experience. However, she is very confident in herself and her abilities to learn. She is very eager to take on work. Which leadership approach should you use with her? Hit the pause button. Spend some time figuring out the answer. At the end of this whole cycle, we will review all of the questions. Question 6. As a servant leader on an Agile project, one of your key responsibilities is to what? Question 7. Again, if you are just coming, go all the way back to the beginning, answer each question, and we will review these at the end. On your 5-month government project with 20 powerful stakeholders, you also have a stakeholder with a low level of power and interest on the project. What should you do next with this stakeholder? go to question 8. This is our final question in the people domain. Understanding what ready means so the team can take in work, what done means so the team can judge completeness consistently, should be in a document known as what? And that concludes our review of the first section, where we took a look at people. Now we will be advancing to the process domain. If you were not here in the beginning, I asked that you document your answers on a sheet of paper, question 1, all the way to where we are now in question 8. We are moving on to question 9. We are moving on to the process domain. All right, so moving on to the process domain. Remember, the process domain has more questions on the actual exam, so you will have a few more questions in this domain. Process. First question. The team is doing a retrospective for the just concluded sprint and is voting and deciding on what aspects or tools used during the sprint were most helpful. Which of the following techniques would not be used for participatory decision making? Again, if you're just coming, we are going through people, process, and business. Go all the way back to the beginning. Hit the pause button to give you sufficient time to answer each question. And let's take this like it is a real exam, because you will find gaps that you need to close. Next question, number 10. Which of the following defines the correct hierarchy for defining requirements in Agile? Hit the pause button if you need more time. Number 11. Who ultimately controls change on an Agile project? Next question. Dash help Agile teams using Scrum learn from its previous work on the product and its process. Number 13. The product owner often works with the team to prepare some stories for the upcoming iteration during one or more sessions in the middle of the iteration. The purpose of these meetings is to refine enough stories so the team understands what the stories are and how large the stories are in relation to each other. What does this describe? Number 14. You are the project sponsor for a new initiative. You have been approached by the project manager for direction on how to initiate the project. Which of the following sequences would you recommend? Number 15. You have completed your review of the deliverable being created for your customer. The deliverable output does not reflect verification or acceptance by your quality team. What should the project management team do next? Number 16. Your team is using Kanban as a method to complete project work. When is the best time to carry out a demo or review? Number 17. You are the team facilitator and coach. Your team is currently experiencing work delays and overruns due to insufficiently refined product backlog items. What is the best course of action? And here is our final one in process. Your Scrum team is currently experiencing a lot of technical debt and degraded code quality. What should be done about this? And that, my friends, is the final one for process. We are going into our third and final round, business. Let's get into the business domain. It's a shorter domain. There are not as many questions. Here we go. Business domain. And here is your very first question in business. Number 19. You are developing a new agile mindset for your consulting team. Which of the following espouses an agile mindset? Next question, number 20. When addressing an individual challenge area or implementing a new hybrid or agile approach, a common practice is to treat the change process as an agile project with its own backlog of changes that could be introduced and prioritized by the team. Which of the following is consistent with Agile Manifesto principles and Scrum practices? Next question. You are working with a business unit to complete a benefits management plan. Which of the following would you expect to be done as part of the responsibilities of the benefits owner? Select all that apply. So if you are just coming, bear in mind that this is a mini mock exam, just like the real exam. We're taking this seriously, and we are putting all our answers into this format on a sheet, and we're making sure that we have documented our answers so that upon review, we'll find gaps where there are gaps. Next question. As a project manager, you are expected to confirm project compliance requirements. That is security, health and safety, regulatory compliance, and classify compliance categories while determining potential threats to compliance. Which of the following risk identification models exist to help you achieve this? And our final question at the end of business is this one. The product owner and the team discussed the user stories planned for a particular project. The team pointed out that none of the stories had acceptance criteria defined, and that these were needed to define the acceptance tests for each story and deliverable. However, they could not agree on when exactly these needed to be defined. Ideally, when should the acceptance test be defined? And that is our final question in this set. This is pretty straightforward for those who have studied for many months, weeks, But for those just coming into the program, don't be discouraged. If you find these questions a little bit hard, I can assure you they are on par in terms of difficulty with the exam. So as you spend more time studying and combing through the content, you'll get to the point where this stuff makes a lot more sense. Okay? Now we are going to go through the answers very rapidly. I'll show you the questions again, and then I will show you the answers and explain very quickly why the answers are what they are. If you are just coming and you have not taken the quiz from beginning to the end, please do not watch this section. Spoiler alert. We are reviewing answers to questions that we have already done. So if you really mean business with your prep, even if you're a beginner, take a piece of paper, take a best guess as to all of these questions that I asked in the very beginning. All right, so go back to the beginning, start watching all over again, answer the questions one by one. And when you're going over these, it will have a deeper meaning to you because you would have spent enough time and brain power trying to find out the right answer. All right, here we go. Question number one. The answer to this was a work authorization system that is not used in the world of Agile, that is more from the predictive world, one of the PMI-isms, if you will. Number two, this question is posing the team size growing. The best thing to do is to approach it from an Agile scaling mindset. So it says a coach or scrum master. That's already a tip that this is not predictive, right? And then it says, you have noticed that the complexity and size of the project team has dramatically grown over the course of several releases. The team size has now grown to 40. What is the recommended team size in Agile? Between 3 and 9. You now have 40. That means you have too many people. So it says, what would be the best corrective action to take? So A is establish a scrum of scrums, which we know from the world of Agile, if you've done enough reading of your Agile practice guide. B, C, and D show a less insightful approach. It's talking about a communications management plan, which we don't use in Agile. D is talking about a larger conference room to accommodate a larger team, but that is not the point. The problem is complexity and size of the team. And C, networking and software collaboration tools and is presumptuous. One, no one has said the team is all virtual. Besides, a more insightful answer, if you are aware of what a scrums is A. I love the illustration in the Agile Practice Guide for the Scrum of Scrums. And if you have not read that, why don't we just open up the Scrum of Scrums really quick so I can point you in that direction to get the information you need. So additional frameworks are talked about in the annex. And if you start reading from page 99 forward, you'll come across details on all of these scaling or just regular team Agile approaches. So this one right here, you see that? That's the Scrum of Scrums. And that's an illustration of how the teams at the bottom are scaled up into a team of just 3 at the Scrum of Scrums. So it's a good read for you if you have not read it. Just read and understand that we take a representative from each team and they form a smaller team. So if we have 5 teams of 10 people, we get 1 person from each of those 5 teams. So instead of having 50 people meet, we just have 5 people meet and we scale that up, and that's what it is. Okay, so the correct answer to that one, my friends, is establish a scrum of scrums. All right, let's go to number 3. Number 3, you're an agile practitioner on a software development project utilizing the Scrum methodology. So the crux of the matter is this will help not only the current project, but also future planned projects. Which technique would best help you achieve that goal? So again, this is testing your knowledge in Scrum. It says a very large project which involves several Scrum teams. And since we just took a look at Scrum of Scrums, the understanding of what that is should still be clear in your mind. When you hear several Scrum teams and you're talking about gathering best practices, information, and circulating the information across teams, the best option for this, again, my friends, would be option A, okay? Again, it would be to conduct a Scrum of Scrums. B, C, and D, those will not help you get best practices. The daily stand-up meetings are not for that. Benchmarking, we use that quite a lot in the world of predictive. That would not be the best of the options, even though we could benchmark for what we do in the world of Agile, but that is not the best answer to extract the information and circulate it, because each representative from the Scrum of Scrums is going to go back to their team and do that, okay? So the correct answer is A, conduct a Scrum of Scrums. All right. The next question, question 4, it talks about conflict. And it says you have identified that there is conflict. So let's see, using elimination, which ones we wouldn't do. There's some things that are just blatantly wrong, and you should use this as a method when you're answering questions on the real exam. Use the strikeout. So this says find out which party is in the wrong. No, it's not about who is wrong. When we're resolving conflicts, about getting on the same page, right? C says avoid getting involved in conflict. These matters are expected on teams. No, it says you are working on a project as a team facilitator. This is something you should be aware of, and you should be involved at the right level. All right, let's take a look at option A and B. A says resolve the conflict issue for the team and get management involvement. Well, you don't jump to management involvement, 1, and 2, you do not resolve conflict for team. You allow the team to resolve the conflict itself, but you coach them, train them, help them to understand the team ground rules and the team charter, or team agreement, social contract, team contract. All of that stuff should be in place. The best answer is B. This is a direct cutout from the PMP exam content outline. Evaluate, recommend, and reconcile the appropriate resolution solution. All right, we'll go a little bit quicker from here. Next one is number 5. A new team member has just joined the project with very little experience. However, she is very confident in herself and her abilities to learn. She's very eager to take on work. So when someone like this joins the team, when they are confident, we know they don't need a whole lot of support, but they do need a whole lot of directing. Therefore, the answer is directing. This is from the Hersey-Blanchard model. Remember, we have the supporting and the directing on the x-axis, right? So y-axis is supporting, x-axis is directing. Remember, if someone needs very little support but a whole lot of direction, they'll be in the D quadrant, because we can actually break these down into quadrants. This is not illustrated in the 7th edition, but mention is made of it. So we have the directing approach, we have the coaching approach, we have the supportive, also known as participating approach, and we have the delegating approach. So depending on what you need to be as a leader, either more supportive or less supportive, right? More supportive, less supportive, more directive, less directive, right? Depending on what you need to be, you adjust the style, okay? So the answer to that, again, is directing. As a servant leader on an Agile project, one of your key responsibilities is to. So the answer we were looking for is not from the world of predictive. This would be a predictive approach, right? Planning out the schedule, planning out the cost, delegating work, probably that's more traditional. The answer that we were looking for this one is A, remove impediments. That's the answer, right? As a servant leader, impediments, obstacles, and blockers, you remove those for the team. Next question. On your 5-month government project with 20 powerful stakeholders, you also have a stakeholder with a low level of power and interest on the project. What should you do with this? Again, you want to think about the matrix that you have. You have the interest and you have the power on this axis, remember? So it's something like this, power interest grid. And then you have low interest, right? Versus high interest versus high power, low interest, and high power, high interest. And this says, have a stakeholder with a low level of power and interest, which is right here. Someone like this in the X position is someone you want to monitor. So the answer to that is monitor. All right, moving along speedily to our next one, understanding what ready means, what done means, and so on. This is in a document known as a team charter, but it is also called a social contract or team contract or team agreement. All right, next one. The team is doing a retrospective for the just concluded sprint and is voting and deciding on what aspects or tools used during the sprint were most helpful. So this one, you could use the process of elimination because it said will not be used. Did you catch the word not? Which of these will not be used? So we wouldn't use, which one? Planning poker, that's for estimating. Okay, so the correct answer is planning poker. All right, let's move to the next one. Which of the following defines the correct hierarchy for defining requirements in Agile? Is it A, B, C, or D? So one thing's for sure, task should not be towards the top. It is the lowest in the hierarchy of all. And you see that. So the one that says story is last is clearly wrong. Okay, story is always above task. Now, if there's one that shows the epic is under the story, you know that is not correct either. So the epic should be on top. Now it's on top in all of them. What about feature? Feature should be above the story level as well. That makes it even harder because feature is above, but feature should be under the epic, okay? So anyone where we have feature above the epic is wrong. So we're gonna cancel this one. Can't be that, okay? Is there any other one where feature is in the wrong place? So it comes down to A or D. Now think about it. Release versus epic. Which one comes first? Okay, let me give you a very quick idea here. I have a funny mnemonic I ask my students to remember. Remember, Phil eats fries. Okay, let's do that again. This is going to be easier if I put the right thing in the right place. Let's do that again. Phil remembers. Phil remembers to eat fries sometimes on Thursdays. This is going to help you remember the hierarchy. Now, this is pretty much for product, release, epic, features, stories, and tasks. Let's do that again. You got to remember the hierarchy. The product is always the highest level. Let's move this around. All right, product. Product is made up of releases, right? Under that, we could have the epic level. Fries, story, and task level. So if you think about it like that, the hierarchy for defining requirements fits more like this. Now, I know different teams have different configurations, but I think if you stuck to this, it would be easier for you. All right, let's move on. Let's clear the board and move on to our next one. So the answer, to make it very clear, I know product was not part of this question, but since product is not there, it will be, remember, eat fries seldomly or sometimes on Thursday. All right, here's our next question. All right, here's your next one. Who ultimately controls change on an Agile project? Now, this question could come as a surprise because you don't typically think of controlling change, but believe me, you do control change somehow. There's got to be some measure of control. So think about it. Within the sprint, when the sprint is airborne, we often say, let's not forbid change, but let's discourage change. There's a difference, right? So there's some measure of control. There's a large measure of control in a sprint. You don't just bring stuff into the middle of the sprint and ask for it to be done. You're going to be met with the product owner's resistance. So the product owner is pretty much a custodian of the product backlog. So who ultimately controls that change from happening? It's the product owner. The product owner would say, let's put that in the product backlog and let's wait for a couple more sprints. Or they may make the judgment call to go ahead and do it. See, and that's why when you think about change in the world of Agile, you've got to be thinking about the product owner. Now, of course, the customer, they wield quite a lot of power because it's for them that we're doing what we're doing. Remember, the Agile Manifesto talks about welcome changing requirements even late because of the customer's strategic advantage. Paraphrased, right? So when we think about this, we've got to be thinking about the product owner and the customer. It wouldn't be the team. The team doesn't control change. The team does what they're supposed to do. Now, the Scrum Master is a diversion shield, but they don't have as much power over the product backlog compared to the product owner. And what does a product backlog have? The ultimate scope that is going to be adjusted in some way or another. And when we talk about the sprint backlog, that is the stuff we're doing for the current sprint that we also don't want changed willy-nilly. And the belly button accountable person is the product owner. All right, next one. Dash helped Agile teams using Scrum learn from its previous work on the product and its process. So for this one, I'm hoping you chose retrospectives. That is the correct answer. It's as simple as that. Retrospectives. All right, next one. The product owner often works with the team to prepare some stories for the upcoming iteration. So for number 13, if you were not already aware of this, let's go to page 52. Page 52, okay? So taking a look at page 52, it says, under backlog refinement, in iteration-based Agile, the product owner often works with a team to prepare some stories for the upcoming iteration. You're seeing the train coming now? Yeah, that is where it's from. It's a direct lift from there. Okay, so the answer to this is backlog refinement. Let's go to our next one. You are the project sponsor for a new initiative. You have been approached by the project manager for direction on how to initiate the project. Which of the following sequences would you recommend? So again, you can use the process of elimination. Taking a look at the contents, you've got a business case, a benefits management plan, a needs assessment, and a project charter. Which of these comes first? Now, if you've read page 30 in the PMP Guide 6th edition, this is a cakewalk. You know that the project charter does not come before the business case, right? So you can cancel D and you can cancel C straight away. You should also know that the needs assessment does not come before the benefits management. Well, let me say that again. The needs assessment should come before the benefits management plan. The benefits management plan does not come before the needs assessment. So A is incorrect. And that leaves us with the correct one, which is D, the needs assessment first, then the business case, then the benefits management plan. And we can go back and forth between benefits management plan, business case, and ultimately we're going to get the project charter. All right, so the correct answer is B. All right, let's move on. Next one, you have completed your review of the deliverable being created for your customer. The deliverable output does not reflect verification or acceptance by your quality team. What should the project management team do next? So think about it. You've completed your review. The deliverable output does not reflect verification or acceptance by your quality team. In other words, your quality team says, no, this is not good enough. This is not good enough. So you got to break down all the words or you might get lost. You've completed your review of the deliverable being created. Forget about for your customer. We know it's for the customer. Bottom line is we've done our review. That is control quality. The deliverable output does not reflect verification. In other words, you got a change request. So what should the project management team do? So let's take a look. It says control the project scope. No, it's already too late to do that. Let's take a look at option B. Proceed to the validate scope process. No. Don't do that because that means your customer is going to review it. Why should your customer review what does not reflect verification or acceptance by your team? And then you want to give it to the customer? No. And then D says carry out regression analysis and administrative closure. No, that's done at the end of the project when all is said and done and we know we've met our goals. We're not going to do a regression analysis and we're not going to do administrative closure. Instead, we will do option C, which is perform quality assurance, find out why the process broke, where are we wrong, and review any generated change requests. Okay, that's the way to do it. Next one. It reads, your team is using Kanban as a method to complete project work. When is the best time to carry out a demo or review? So the answer to this is in the PMP Guide. Not PMP Guide, Agile Practice Guide. I'm so used to saying that word. Agile Practice Guide. Let's go to 5.2.5. 5.2.5, this is on page 55 in the Agile Practice Guide. And it reads, towards the middle. As a general guideline, demonstrate whatever the team has as a working product at least once every 2 weeks. That frequency is enough for most teams, so team members can get feedback that prevents them from heading in the wrong direction. See that? Okay. Now, in addition to that, if you read the other sections, you'll see when to do this in the world of Kanban. In the world of Kanban, we don't have a set cadence that says it has to be ever so often, or after 2 weeks, or after 3 weeks. Instead, it works out that when we have enough features, as you can see in the second paragraph, It says in flow-based Agile, the team demonstrates completed work when it is time to do so, usually when enough features have accumulated into a set that is coherent. And that's the idea that makes the correct option B, not A. Because A says demo at the end of the iteration as all the scheduled work is complete. No, remember Kanban is flow-based. It's not iteration-based. So iteration-based is through cadence. Flow-based is when enough features have accumulated. All right, so that's the answer for number 16. Let's go to our next one. You are the team facilitator and coach. Your team is currently experiencing work delays and overruns due to insufficiently refined product backlog items. What is the best course of action? So if you take a look at the options, you can disqualify the bogus options. Let's take a look at the question again. So we can disqualify some of the bogus options. Okay. A says a servant leader should help clear these obstacles and do the heavy planning. No, servant leaders are not going to do heavy planning. The team does the planning. Okay. So that's not a sensible, agile-oriented approach. B says, most likely the team doesn't know the options they have. Consider a coach. He says, what is the best course of action? Experiencing work delays and overruns, we can tell that this probably is beyond just having a coach. You are the facilitator and coach. You know the team well enough. Why go get someone else? No, you are the coach. So B is redundant. Let's take a look at D. Have the Scrum Master create better acceptance criteria. That is not the job of the Scrum Master. That is something that the product owner does along with the team. And C, the product owner and the team should workshop stories together. That makes sense because the product owner is the mouthpiece for the business. Okay, it says it is due to insufficiently refined product backlog items. Who should know what is in the product backlog? The product owner. So the proper answer for this is C. All right, for those of you just coming, if you have not done the quiz, I recommend going through the quiz yourself, okay? Go all the way back to the beginning, take the quiz, and then you can check your answers. This is a huge spoiler alert. If you haven't done it, if you haven't gone through the questions on your own, please do that. You're going to gain a whole lot more than watching me read the answers, okay? All right, let's go back. Next one. Your Scrum team is currently experiencing a lot of technical debt and degraded code quality. What should be done about this? We could use the process of elimination for this. Again, the product owner should provide a better roadmap. The roadmap and what we experience in technical debt and degraded code quality, it has nothing to do with the roadmap. So again, using the process of elimination, things that just don't add up or make sense, we cancel them. B, velocity should be considered when the Scrum Master creates the sprint goal. The Scrum Master does not create the sprint goal. We cancel that. D says, conduct retrospectives with all stakeholders. No, we don't do that with all stakeholders. We do that with a team. Okay, so just using the process of elimination, you will get the correct answer, which is refactoring, agile modeling, automated code quality analysis. This is on page 58 of the Agile Practice Guide, okay? When in technical debt, these are the things that are described, okay? Page 58. Moving on. Number 19, you are developing a new Agile mindset for your consulting team. Which of the following best espouses an Agile mindset? So A, formalizing an entire contracting relationship in a single document. B, reward and recognition for outstanding team members. C, a shared risk-reward relationship where all sides win. That sounds good. D,
consultant bears all the risk so that your procurement team wins. That doesn't sound in the spirit of Agile. It's not about one person winning, it's about everyone being satisfied. But it starts off with our service. It's a mindset. Okay, so putting everything on the consultant and being unfair or putting all the risk on them and stuff like that, it's not in the spirit of Agile. Okay, A, an entire contracting relationship in a single document. It's not about documents in our world of Agile, just remember that. It's about agreements, it's about collaboration, that kind of thing. B, reward and recognition for outstanding team members. No, that is going to alienate certain team members. They're going to feel left out. They won't win the reward and it'll just be one person. So the best option for this is C, a shared risk reward relationship where all sides win. Okay, that is the best option that espouses an Agile mindset. All right, number 20, we're going into business now. Going into business. For those of you just coming, oh, we're already in business from the question we did before. So number 19 is when we snuck right there into business. And now we're on to number 20. And when addressing an individual challenge area or implementing a new hybrid or Agile approach, a common practice is to treat the change process as an Agile project with its own backlog of changes that could be introduced and prioritized by the team. Which of the following is consistent with Agile Manifesto principles and Scrum practices? Again, it's trying to source, do you understand Agile, what it espouses? So A says focus on the immediate environment only. That's not good. C says work with stakeholders to reduce scope creep and limit options. Limit options for scope backlog changes. The less change there is, the faster the product will be completed. That's not entirely true, and that's not in the spirit of Agile. D says at the project end, when product goal is reached, review external business environment for impacts. It's going to be too late by then. All right, so what we want to do is B. We want to assess and prioritize the impact on the product backlog based on external environment changes and engage all relevant stakeholders in technical decisions. That would be the right approach. Okay. All right, let's go to our next one. You're working with a business unit to complete benefits management plan. Which of the following would you expect to be done? So just going through the list. It's good to investigate the benefits identified. It's good to document agreement on ownership, right, for ongoing benefit realization. And when we talk about schedule progress, this is not something we do in benefits management. Remember, it said select all that apply. So the only other one that applies is appraise stakeholders of value gain progress. This is in the PMBOK guide, page 33 in the 6th edition, where we go into a lot of great detail. Honestly, page 60, I beg your pardon, page 33 in the 6th edition. Let me just show you for those who don't know. For those who don't know what the 6th edition looks like, I want to be very clear. I'm talking about this one. And for those people who say, has 6th edition gone away? It's not gone away. It's still relevant in a lot of the questions, right? Just the lay of the land for general project management ideas and stuff. All right, here we go. Let's go to our next one. As a project manager, you are expected to confirm project compliance requirements, that is, security, health, and safety, regulatory compliance, and classify compliance categories while determining potential threats to compliance. Which of the following risk identification models exist to help you achieve this? So again, if you know the 6th edition really well, this is from prompt lists. We have VUCA, TCOP, and PESTLE. Those are the answers. All the other ones, you know, there's no such thing as SSTAR, MOLA, and MOTA. Those are all just play on words. All right. Number 23. Product owner and the team discussed the user stories planned for a particular project. The team pointed out that none of the stories had acceptance criteria defined and that these were needed to define the acceptance tests for each story and deliverable. However, they could not agree on when exactly these needed to be defined. Ideally, when should the acceptance test be defined? You want to have these meeting your definition of ready. And where is that? In refinement before development. Okay, there you have it, my friends. This was a mini mock exam. If you take a look, we had 23 questions, right? Roughly 1/9 of your real exam. Now, you see the brain power needed to go through these, even though they're not that hard for a lot of you, but the stamina to think, to create that energy, get that motor running, to be able to do 23 questions, you see, it does need quite a bit of concentration. And that is why I would highly recommend, if you didn't take these on your own, even if you ended up getting to the end and you're like, oh, Phil, too late, I was already at the end. I want you to stop the video, go back to the beginning, and I want you to spend 1 minute to 1.5 minutes thereabouts, or if you need more time, spend the time you need to answer each question that I beamed on the screen. Don't listen to my explanations yet. And then at the end of it, go back to my explanations and see if you got the rationale and the logic down. Okay? Before we leave, I want to let you know that a lot of this stuff you may have heard about in the 6th edition is not going to waste, like the processes, being aware of how they flow. You've heard me talk about the PMBOK guide mainline and how things flow together in project management. Well, this idea is not going away, right? It's not for naught. Also, when we talk about the breakdown of change requests and how they flow, and those of you who watch my video about change requests and the logical flow of change requests, this is not going away either. And then let's take a process, for example, like schedule management. The way it flows, that is not going away either. And I see my PowerPoint is trying to tank here, but you get the idea. The summary is all the stuff that you have learned in the past from this book, right? Definitely from this. Those are not going away. Those could still very, very well help you even on this exam, because it's in the mindset. You noticed a lot of the questions I showed you now, I didn't go over inputs. There were not a whole lot of inputs, tools, techniques, and outputs questions. Were they? There weren't. And that's why I put this together to remind you what exactly the exam is going to be based on. It's going to be based on how you think. A lot of it, some of them you could tell they were overtly agile, and some of them they felt more like in the middle of the road, neither here nor there. All right, for those of you who are thinking of taking the exam and you're wondering how to go about it, I want to encourage you to go on down to our website. I'll show you right here. It's Praizion.com. When you get to Praizion, just scroll down and take a look. We have all sorts of course offerings. We have live training going on. We have also over here, we have a course that's on demand. You can just jump on right now and begin on-demand training with us for just ridiculous rates. All right, so go on down to the Praizion website. That's Praizion.com. We'll put a link below, and let's know how we can help you. Okay, all the very best. Again, this is going to replay. So go all the way to the beginning, answer the questions, go over the logic, and why don't you put a chat below, a comment? I would like to know, what did you score on this mock exam? Okay, maybe you want to keep it secret. Why don't you email and let us know? All right, support@Praizion.com. It would be nice to know how you performed. You take care, and all the very best on your exam. Bye for now. Are you still there? Take the mock exam, and if you're done, I want to know what you attained. So out of 23, how many did you get? Bye for now. The rewind button, hit it. Hit the rewind button, watch it again, and let me know. I'm not joking. I really want to know how well you performed. Okay? Ciao.